This feels like a dream. I can't believe I'm actually safe. He was a teenager standing barefoot in a parking lot, burns on his face. And that was the first time in his life he had ever felt safe. That call changed something in me, and today I want to talk about why. Look, if you've been in EMS, fire, law enforcement, or honestly any job where you show up for people on their worst days, you know there are two kinds of calls. The kind everyone asks you about, the chaos, the adrenaline, the stories that sound like something out of a movie. And then there's the other kind. The ones that don't look like much on paper. The ones you don't bring up at the station. The ones where nothing dramatic happened. And somehow, they're the ones that stay. That's what this video is about. Not the worst call, the quiet ones. And what they actually do to you over time. Let me ask you something, and don't skip this. What was the last moment at work that stayed with you? The moment that didn't make any sense. Not the worst one, the one that shouldn't have mattered, but it did. And hold on to that. Because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why. So let me take you back to this call. Nothing about it sounded unusual over dispatch. You've heard thousands of calls like this. We pull up to a parking lot, and that's where I see him, a teenager standing there. No shoes, just standing on the pavement barefoot. And before I even get to him, I can already see what's happening. He's not looking at us. He was scanning past us, behind us, around us. He's checking to see if his parents had followed him, because he knew they were looking for him. I walk up, I get a look in his face. There are burns from a hot pan pressed into his face. This kid didn't just decide that morning to leave. He had planned it. The night before, he made a plan. He called a friend. He arranged a meeting spot and he figured out the timing. And then he walked out with no shoes. Not because he had forgotten them, but because if he stopped to get them, someone might hear him. He made a decision that leaving barefoot was safer than taking a few extra seconds to put on his shoes. We start talking to him. We get him in the ambulance. Everything's fine. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, "This feels like a dream. I can't believe I'm actually safe." Let that sit. Safety felt unreal to him, like something that happens to other people, not him. And then, without me asking, he starts talking about his brothers. Still in the house, still there. His first thought wasn't about himself. It was about them. Courage doesn't always look the way you think it will. It doesn't look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like a teenager with no shoes shaking and moving anyway. Here's what most people don't understand about calls like this. It didn't wreck me in the moment. I cleared the call and I went to the next one. That's the job, right? But it didn't leave, and I didn't understand why until later. There's an idea I came across that explains this better than I could. In the book, The Body Keeps the Score, the argument is simple. Your body doesn't just remember the worst moments. It remembers the repetition, the exposure, the quiet moments that don't feel like anything at the time. And in this job, you're exposed to a lot, which means those moments don't disappear. They get stored. And if this is hitting for you, let me know below. What is a moment that stayed with you? A moment that didn't make sense at the time? I told you one that stuck with me. Okay, I have a second one. This one's a little bit different. There's no urgency, no chaos, just quiet. We responded to an older man, homeless. He needed his medications. He had run out. There's nothing wrong with him. Just no medications. And there was no way to get more. On paper, this call doesn't require much. But something about him, you could tell this wasn't always his life. He hadn't lost himself. He had just been forgotten. So we made a decision. We drove him to CVS and paid for his medication. Not to be heroes, just because it felt right. And what stuck with me was the way he looked at us. It wasn't gratitude, it was recognition. Like someone had finally seen him. Not the situation, not the label, but him. And I still think about that look because it taught me something. The loudest suffering isn't always the deepest. Sometimes it's the quiet kind, the kind where someone has been forgotten for so long they stop expecting to be seen. That's the part that stays. Big calls, those pass. The quiet ones, those stay. Here's the part that matters though. These moments bypass your defenses. They accumulate over time. They change how you see people and how you move through the world. Two completely different calls, same truth underneath both. Presence matters more than protocol. Sometimes the most important thing you do is just to be there, fully there. And this isn't just first responders. Everyone has moments like this. The difference is how often you see them and what you do with them. You don't get to choose which call stays with you, but you get to decide what they turn into. That boy in the parking lot, no shoes, burns on his face, to me that's courage. Not loud, not confident, but just courage anyway. The ability to move anyway and continue on. And that man, he didn't lose his worth. He just stopped being seen. And if you're in that position where you get to see people, that's your responsibility. Because most people walk past what matters. The calls you don't talk about, they're the ones that shape you, whether you realize it or not. So before you go, what's a moment that stayed with you that didn't make sense? Let me know below. You don't have to explain it, just say it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.